So winter really feels like it's kicking in now. We've had some really heavy frosts. Temperatures are dropping below minus. We've been really lucky here. We've had some dry days. We have had a lot of wet weather, and I know some of you have had nothing but rain. We've been quite fortunate in that we have had some rain, but we have had some lovely dry days as well. Today it's dull and it's cold, but it's dry, but we've actually had some beautiful sunny days as well, some beautiful sunrises and sunsets, and it's just glorious here on the farm. So what with one thing or another, I have been quite busy, and I've got some clearing and tidying to do here in the polytunnel. So that's what I'm going to do today, and really sort of get everything finished and ready for winter. We have the door behind me. I have mentioned before that we cover that over. That's done. It's battened, so that door isn't openable. Is that a word? We cannot open it. So there's battens around the edge and some bubble wrap over the mesh at the top there, and then the whole door is just covered over, just to try and keep some of the warmth in. I'll show you around, and yeah, I'm going to have a bit of a clear and tidy. Still having a bit of a mouse issue in here at the moment, but we're hoping to get on top of that. To be honest with you, it happens every year at this time of the year. I'm sure the rest of you have problems with polytunnels, greenhouses, sheds or storage areas, and even, you know, some growing plants. You just have to be careful, of course, as the temperatures drop and they're getting a wee bit hungry, they will come venturing in. So we're getting on top of that. I have lost a few seedlings, and I lost the majority of my squash, mainly my own fault. I was really busy with work and one thing or another, and I wasn't putting the time in, and I wasn't sort of pottering about in here enough. I think sometimes just human presence, just pottering around, just deters them a little bit. So they have been having a wee bit of a festival in here, but we're getting on top of that now. So here you can see the last bedraggled looking tomato plants. They just need to be pulled out now and composted. There was some chard growing in this pot. I think it's been nibbled by the mice. Any seedlings at the moment I am struggling with. Anything that's fairly established is not too bad. What else have we got? Oh, there's a tomato sitting in there. So this is the celeriac, and I'm just going to leave it in here and see how it does. I shouldn't imagine it's going to do too much now till the spring. The basil, the cold has got to that, so that's the end of the basil. Just mind my head on the hanging baskets. More tomato plants there to come out. Over here is the perpetual spinach, which is brilliant. And then working down, you can see here, you know, that these are the pumpkin and squash, and you know, they're finished now. The mice have had the majority of them, and yeah, they don't do with the cold weather, so you can see how the cold has affected those now. So that all needs to come out, and I really want to rest this bed completely now until the spring, and then it's going to be, can you see how the level has dropped? We need to top that up, you know, to almost back up to the top there with fresh compost in the spring and start again. Sadly, some neglected tumbling toms that just never got harvested, so they're there for pulling. And then this bed's doing really well with parsnip, turnip, leek and carrots, and we'll sort of eat our way through those over the next coming months. And then the chard here is just fantastic still, so we just keep picking and using that. And there were 2 rows here of turnip, but again the mice have been at them. And then this is the bed that the strawberries are in, so obviously they're not doing anything at the moment. And then if I just take you outside, not wobbling you around too much. This area here all needs clearing. My disastrous pumpkin pallet, I'm just going to pull that down, to be honest with you. It was an experiment, and the slugs really were just too much to contend with out here, so I'll stick to growing things in the polytunnel. And unfortunately, I'm really not sure what's happened here. So this, as some of you might remember, this was my rhubarb. It does need weeding, but it was doing brilliantly. So I started the rhubarb off in the polytunnel as seeds, and it you know, germinated, and I had some nice rhubarb coming, small but good. Then I transplanted it out here and it was looking really, really good, and then it just seemed to suddenly stop doing, and now it's disappeared altogether. So, you know, I know we don't have rhubarb at this time of the year, but the rhubarb I've grown in the past, usually you have, you know, the little crowns still sitting there over the winter, and I usually chuck some compost or well-rotted horse manure on top and leave it over the winter. But yeah, I suspect we've lost that, so I will have to start again. And then there's this bed here, which is just the same really. There's some leek down at the bottom. There's still a little tiny little bit of colour coming in those flowers. I'm just going to leave those as a bit of a mulch over the winter, and then pull them out and dig that over in the spring. And then the garlic there and the onions are just about where I would expect them to be at this time of the year. Chris had done a fantastic job while I've been working last weekend of strimming one last strim. So there's a bit of debris sort of gone over onto that bed. But yeah, it's just much easier to work around the polytunnel. So yeah, all of this area has had one last cut. And it's looking good. So I'm going to crack on now in the polytunnel and get some jobs done. I have cleared and tidied and sorted and emptied, and what I'll do now is I'll just spin the camera around and I'll take you on a little tour and I will show you the after, because you saw the before earlier. So I'm really pleased with what I've got done today, and despite the fact that it is about 5 degrees in here, so it's colder outside, I'm actually peeling layers off. I'm really warm, and that's one of the advantages, isn't it, of getting out and doing. You know, you can sit in the house looking out the window going, oh, it's really cold, but you know, get out, before you know it, you're peeling layers off, you're rolling up your sleeves, and what a sense of achievement. So I will say thank you very much for watching. To those of you that might be new to my channel, please do consider subscribing and hit that bell to get notifications of my latest videos. To those of you that are following me, thank you so much, it really is appreciated. I hope you're all sort of getting ready for winter and you've still got a few bits and bobs growing. I really do appreciate you all watching, and I love watching everybody else's channels as well. So we're getting ready for winter now, still a few bits and bobs to be growing, lots of preparing, and we can even starting things off ready for spring. So I'll spin that camera around and I'll show you what I've achieved this afternoon. So this is the bed that the pumpkin and squash were in, and that prior to that has just, you know, given me endless supplies of vegetables, and it really is ready for a rest. So what I've done is any spent compost, including those 2 grow bags that I had outside, I've tipped into here just to top it up, and then there's still plenty of space left to put some really good quality fresh stuff in there in the spring. I've moved my geraniums, which had been brought from outdoors to indoors, and I've just hung them up there. I do find I've kept them this way in the greenhouse in the past. This is the first year I'm going to do it in the polytunnel, but I just find because they're hanging and they're moving a little bit, and obviously they're under the shelter of the polytunnel, it should be enough to keep those through till next year. This bed's pretty much as it was. I've given it a little bit of a weed. These baskets are empty. Because the door is now closed, I've put a little hook on that door and I can just keep the hose pipe tidy there. I do find I water less at this time of the year, predominantly because there's less plants to water, but also even with the bed here, you get a lot of condensation because of the cold on the outside and a little bit of warmth on the inside, and you have to be careful not to overdo it and let things get too wet, otherwise you end up with things rotting. So I don't water as much, and I do keep a water tub outside, which over the winter months I can just dunk the watering cans into, so I don't tend to need the water from the hose as much through the winter months. So the chard here, just the same. I decided to leave the turnip seedlings in case they come back. You know, they've got 2 chances, haven't they? And then over here, wow, you know, I'm really pleased with that. What a difference. Completely cleared that corner. And then if I just turn you around, I've had a tidy up with all my pots. There's some baskets there. These are the herbs that my mum gave to me, and there's actually some leek which I'd started off, which are in that little green plastic tray. So they can sit in this corner for now, and then I will either do something with them or I won't, but I figured they've got a better chance in the polytunnel than they have trying to survive outside in pots that really they need to come out of, but they can stay there for now. All the pots are emptied and stacked up. I use a lot of polystyrene just because it's something that would otherwise get thrown away from things that get delivered to me at work, and I put it in the bottom as you know, for sort of crocks, the equivalent of what we used to use, broken pots or stones or gravel. So I use that, so that's all stacked up into one tub. And there's just one pot there that I'd forgotten about and I haven't emptied it, but I'm getting ready for a cup of tea, and I have got a horse to ride as well, so I'm running out of time, so that can stay there for now. I've moved the celeriac over here so it's next to the chard, and then if I just pan back, you can just see, I mean, what a difference. Just a couple of hours makes, you know. This has been really stressing me out. Every day I'm thinking, oh, I must get in that polytunnel, must get in that polytunnel. So that's it, it's cleared. There's nothing really in here that shouldn't be. And it's ready for winter. And then this area outside, my sort of rather rustic muck heap here. Compost pile is getting fuller by the minute. I tend to just leave it uncovered, let the rain get in. We'll put some more grass clippings on there in the spring, and I'll probably chuck some of the manure from the horses on top of there as well, and then just leave it to do its thing. This is the area where I had the pallets. You can see I've moved those pallets now. There's still 3 tubs over there. I'm not moving them, they're heavy, so they can just stay where they are. The rhubarb, I've done a little investigation and a few minutes weeding, by no means finished. I think I can almost feel the crowns of the rhubarb, and I could see a little stump, so I'm going to leave those alone and see how they go. So there we are, that's me getting ready for winter, and I've had a really good sort out, so it's time to have a cup of tea, and then I'm going to go and ride one of my horses. Thanks ever so much for watching, take care, bye bye now.